into what we actually have today at hand. I believe you guys can see my screen. Let me know.
Yes, sir.
Yes, you can see your screen.
Okay. All right, so today what we are actually talking about, like I said, is the HTML and CSS, as they are the building blocks for web development. Now, what I mean here is HTML is a language, CSS is a language, and these two works together to give us our development, a structure and a style and a design. It makes our development like it has all the elements that it houses all the elements that we need to bring in whatever that we want on our website, whether it's a text, whether it's video, whether it's their images, or whatever that you want to get on your site. You need HTML and CSS. Now we are going to really differentiate between the two as we progress. All right, so for the content of today, we are going to talk about what web development is about, and after that, we talk about front-end web development, then importance of CSS and HTML and CSS. Then we will break them down. We will see things that are associated with the HTML and we see things that are associated with CSS. All right, so let's get going. Okay, for what is web development? Now, I made mention that I'm a web developer, and I also said I'm a full stack developer. Now, when you talk about web development, it entails where the full stack, either you be a full stack, which you are going to take care of the front end and the back end, or you choose to go for the front end, or you work as a back end developer. Now, what is front end? What is back end? Okay, so talking about the front end, we talk about what the user sees on the internet. Now, I'm a user. I want to visit facebook.com. I go to my browser, I type www.facebook.com, then it opens up and I get to log in. I get to see my newsfeed. I get to see my notifications. I read messages. I even make a post or I even comment on. That is the front end. That is what the user is saying, and that is what is being presented to the user. Now, what the user does is that he enjoys the parts that he's seeing, he enjoys the flow of it. Now, front end has so many things involved in it. Now, what are they? One, they talk about the layout, they talk about the style, and they talk about how the user can interact with the application as a whole. Now, going to the back end, it's about what happens when the user clicks on login. What happens when the user clicks on sign out? What happens when the user click on react, like button? Now, this is what is happening at the back end, which is abstracted from the user. The user don't have idea. They don't need to know what is happening before they use your site. Now, these are the logic on the server, which allows your application to function very well. Without this logic, there will be no interaction on your website. There will be no flow of information because the backend comprises of the logic of the site and also the database of the site. Now, the database is a storage that holds information about the user or about your website or about anything that you have on your application. We have languages that we use on the backend also, just like we have languages that we use on the front end. But for the purpose of this particular class, we are going to focus more on the front end. All right, and the front end, we say it compassing, like we have what we use, the languages that we use, the HTML, the CSS, and JavaScript. Now, these three works together to give us this layout that we are talking about, the style and the interaction that we see on our website. Now, if you check on my slide here, you see a brief description of, okay, let me just say a picture describing what happens when the user goes to a website. All right, so you go to a website, you are the client, your system, or with your system or your phone or any device that is connected to the internet, you go through a website from the browser. You access every website from the browser. Then when you go there, you type in the URL of it, let me say, the www.facebook, the google.com, that is the name of the site, the address of the site, you type in your browser. Now, your browser is now communicating with the server. All right, the server, it will look up for the site. It exists, it brings it up for you. Now, the web server now interacts with your backend. That is the business logic here. Now, the backend, which is the business logic, interacts with your database. That is the storage. Now, if a code, if you are on a site like, let's say, to view your news feeds on your Facebook, what people have posted. Now, on that page, it will go to the backend will go to the storage, bring out all the people that you have liked or you are following or they are your friends, bring up what they have posted, their pictures, everything, and present to you. Now, this is what is happening. You are just there, and all these things, if you take notice, like, you won't even notice it. Yes, if you won't even notice it. Just as you scroll, everything is coming up. That is it. So that's what happens when you visit a website. And I've let you to know that front end and back end are the two main parts of web development. Now, who is a full stack? A full stack developer is someone that takes care of the front end and the back end. You see, a full stack takes care of the front, what the user is seeing, and also takes care of what is happening at the server. All right, so as a web developer, you can choose to go for the front end. Yes, we have many people that are doing front end. We have many people that are working only on front end. They are earning their salary, they are earning very well. And we have people that are working as back end. But you know something, if you are working front end and you're working back end, that means you're collecting money in two aspects. You are collecting the money for as a front end developer, and you're collecting money as a back end developer. If you are just a back end developer, you are just collecting money for your back end work while another person is working on the front end. Alas, you people are still earning. You understand me? All right. So let's really talk about what is this front end now. What is this front end? Okay, as it is the main focus of this particular class, we say that the front end is talking about the implementation, the design, and the visuals of the website. Now, I have explained that already, but let's see the responsibilities and the roles of front end. Now, the first thing the front end takes care of is the user experience. Now, the user experience is, as I'm visiting your site, what do I get? Do I really get what I'm looking for? Do I really get what I'm after? Does the website really present me with what I like? You know, if you want to see Telegram and WhatsApp, so many people will prefer to use WhatsApp, so many people will prefer to use Telegram based on their interface. That is based on the experience that they get from it. You understand? That is the user experience that we're talking about here. Now, it's what the user is getting from your side. Is the user satisfied? So how do you determine this? Is through the front end. Now, imagine now I want to log into my Facebook, and the first thing Facebook is presenting me with is my profile, or the first thing Facebook is presenting me with is notifications. Meanwhile, I'm supposed to be seeing posts, what other people are posting. That is not actually a good experience for me. If I'm to log in Facebook, and every time I log in my Facebook, I will have to see my profile, or then I will now navigate back to the newsfeed. That is not a good experience. Rather, when people log into Facebook, the first thing that is in their mind is, let me see what is happening, let me see what people are posting. And immediately Facebook presents you with newsfeed, what people have shared with you. That's a good experience you get. All right. So talking about if you talk about responsive design, the front end, the role one is one of the role of the front end design. Is one of the role of the front end development. Now, you talk about responsiveness. I have a website, and I'm accessing my website with a mobile phone. The other person is accessing the website with a laptop. How is this site presented to them? You understand? That is what responsive design talks about. Now, you design your site so that even if I'm using as a phone as small as iPhone 4, I'll be able to access everything I need. No part is cut off. You design your site so that no matter how big the screen is, everything is presented well. Nothing is scattered. That is responsiveness of the site. So the front end takes care of the experience and also the responsiveness of the site. All right, so what do we really use the front end? Let's talk about the components. Now, the first one is HTML. We have been hearing HTML. What does it mean? It means hypertext markup language. Now, the role that it plays in front-end development is that it is what forms the structure. Like a sketch is what holds, okay, you want your picture to be here, you position this here, you bring in the picture here, you put the text up here, you put the, like, you just arrange them. That is the arrangement of the site. That is the what the HTML, the role that it plays in front-end development. Now we talk about the CSS. CSS, how does it relate to front end? Now, the full meaning of CSS here is cascading style sheets. It's a style sheet. Now, what it does is after the HTML has defined the structure of how our site is going to be, the CSS controls how these structures are presented. It controls how these things are styled, each of these elements. You understand? Now, you build a house, you lay your foundation, you lay blocks, you build to an extent, you roof your house. After you start painting your house, you start putting doors, you start tiling your house. Some places you put, that is what styling is all about, okay? So JavaScript now is a language that adds the dynamic behaviors to your website. Understand? What this means is that you are on Facebook. When you click on that that like button, you click on the button, then the button is like bring up other interactions. So that is the interaction that I'm talking about. You click on something, it pops up something, or it changes the state of that thing, or maybe the color of the text change. That is the interaction I'm talking about. That is what JavaScript is. But we are going to focus on HTML and CSS today. That's why we are presenting you with HTML and CSS. Now, currently we are talking about HTML5 and CSS3. Now, these numbers here doesn't really change anything, but it has a change. It has some changes. Now, the number here, the HTML5 means that we are currently working with HTML5, the version 5 of it. We have different versions of them, old versions and new versions. New versions are as a result of new things that have been discovered and new things that will make your development to be easy. Okay, so if you have been opportunity to check a website around 2005, 2006, 2010, you see that, in fact, even Facebook, let's use Facebook as example. The way Facebook started is not as it is. Everything is changing due to how these languages are changing and due to new things that have been brought inside. Okay, so the HTML5 is and the CSS3 are the current versions of HTML and CSS that we are currently using. Now, HTML5, what does it do? It's the foundation for web content. It defines the structure. It uses, now HTML uses elements to define the structure. It uses elements to define the structure that we are talking about. You have something like headings, you have paragraph, you have lists, you have links, you have images, and there are so many more of it. Okay, then it is used to create the skeletal flow of the sites. When you're working with HTML, you might not really enjoy what you're doing until you start bringing in CSS, which will enhance the appearance of the site and formats the HTML elements. It defines colors, defines fonts, spacing, layout, and many more. And if you're working with HTML and CSS, and you have your CSS as an external file, it helps you separate your contents and your presentation. That is the HTML part and the CSS part. Okay, let's dive into HTML in full. All right, so I believe many of you are joining with your system, okay? Because this is going to be more of a practical session, okay? So we are not just going to talk, and at the end we close our chapters, and no, we are going to see what really happens, how we really get through to get a website standing. Okay, so this brings us to the structure of the website. Now, I will tell you, without HTML, you will not be able to build your site, no matter because we have so many other frameworks that they tend to like abstract the HTML part of development from developing site. But no matter how you develop your site, they have this foundation built on HTML. No matter the framework that you're using, they are being rooted to HTML. That's why if you go to if like a website, if you right click on that page and you want to view the source of the website, you always see HTML. No matter what the framework that was used, no matter what was used to develop the site, you always see the HTML structure of that site. So everything is rooted to the HTML. Okay, so now how do we structure our HTML? We have that HTML creates now what HTML creates is that it creates a file, and this file are called web pages. Now collection of these pages now forms a website. Now you open a website and it shows you a home page of it. Then you click about, it takes you to about. About is another page. If you click on contact me, it takes you to contact me. That contact me is another HTML file. All these are files joined together. They are linked together. That's why in the home page you are able to access the about page through a button, through a link. And when you click a link that takes you to about, it will take you to about. On the about page, you can click a button that takes you back to the home. These are two different HTML files. So HTML files creates each of HTML files creates a web page. All these files are pages, and each of the page forms and collection of these pages forms the full website linked together. Without linking them, you'll not be able to access them. Okay. You need a link to join them together and to access them from one another. All right, I'm going to be switching my screen now to. Sorry. All right, so when you talk about web development, we have applications that we use for web development. These are like tools that we use to write our code. We have the Visual Studio Code that we use to write our codes. Now, the Visual Studio Code is an application by Microsoft. We have other integrated development environment, because these applications that we use for writing codes are called integrated development environments. Now, I prefer Visual Studio Code because it allows you to write codes in any language. It has a large room of extensions that allows you to incorporate different languages and use them on that particular application without having to download separate applications for each of the languages. So I recommend Visual Studio Code. Sorry, please, if your mic is on, you can mute it, please. Okay, so we have this Visual Studio Code that is being used to develop our website. It gives us the tools that we need in developing our site. So first of all, I'm going to open my Visual Studio Code. All right, so I'm going to navigate to a very new folder where I want to use for my development. All right, so I can go to open a folder. All right, so I already selected the folder that I want to open and work with. Okay, so we are talking about the we are talking about the structure of HTML. Now, the HTML has some elements wrapped in tags. We have tags that we use to hold different elements. So some of these tags are nested inside, they are being placed inside other tags. Now, the roots of the HTML is the HTML tag, as you can see here. The root of the HTML is the HTML tag. Then inside the HTML tag, it is being divided into two sections. We have the head part and we have the body. The head is where the information about that your web page, that particular page is held. Now you have information like the title of the web page. Like when you open your browser, you see each of the tabs on your browser has names based on the site that you are visiting. So like here now, the first tab here, I have different names in my tabs now on my browser. Now the title is what defines that name, the name on that page. Now I have also in the body is where informations that you want to display to the user are being entered in. Like you have heading, you have a paragraph, you have an image, you have everything. Now they are like, is the body that holds for this, what the user sees. When the user enters your website, the user sees many things, the images, the logo, the name. These are being placed inside the body part of your HTML file. Now, you've seen on my right-hand side, you see to my right. Oh, okay, my VS Code just came up. All right, so you see to my right now the result of this code now here. We have the first heading, which happened to be the H1 part of the body, and we have, this is a paragraph which happened to be wrapped inside the P tag. Now, this is what is presented to the user, what you're saying. The first heading, this is a paragraph. Now, if you check on top of the browser, you see structure. Structure happens to be the name I gave to this site as a title inside the head of it. Now, that is how to define your HTML document. You divide them into two parts, the body part wrapped into the body tag, and the head, which holds information about the site. Now, the head is like a cover of your book. The cover of your book has your name. It has your the subject you're writing. That's your class. That's your school. Now, those are the information. Now, when the person opens inside the body of the book, the main book, now starts seeing the write-up, what you're writing inside the book, what the book holds, the information that is inside the book. Now, the body is like the inside of the book. Now, what the person is seeing inside the book. Now we have here, now let's explain what each of these lines is doing. Now the first line says doc type HTML. Now this defines the type of document and version of the document. And since we are dealing with HTML5, you always have the doc type HTML. Why? Because the browsers that you're using to visit each of these sites now, most of them, they don't have they are not compatible with HTML5. Yes, there are some compatibility issues, especially if you don't update your web browsers. That is why your applications are very, very important to you, and you need to update them so that you stay up to date. If you are using old versions of browsers and you are actually writing codes with HTML5, now what it means is that there are things that are inside HTML5 that may not have been in HTML4 or in HTML3. So if your browser was if the version of your browser was using HTML4 and you are now opening a website that is in HTML5, you have difficulties in the presentation. Some things may not be displayed, some things may be displaying unusually, not as you expect. Now, you need to specify this document version up here to let the browser know that, okay, I'm visiting this site that has HTML5 properties. Okay, so the next one is HTML, the HTML tag here. These are called tags. They are enclosed in angle brackets, open and close. So we have the tags. The HTML tag is the root. Now it is what every other element is contained. Now it is where every other element is contained. Now, if you check the arrangement on my left hand side, you see that head is inside HTML and body is inside HTML. Now, the HTML itself allows the browser to know that this is the beginning of my HTML document and this is the end. If you check the last line here, is a closing of the the HTML tag. Now every other thing is inside. Now it tells the browser that this is where my code begins and this is where my code ends. All right, so the inside the HTML is where you have the head, and like I said, it contains information about that particular web page and other external resources that you are using. Like if you are using CSS, if you are using the CSS, you are going to include it in the H tag. If you are using any other CSS file, or you are including things like other information, because the information here are not just limited to title. We have other information that you put on the inside the head. So everything there are information about that site. They are not going to be displayed except for the title. The title is displayed on the browser tab. Except for the title, every other information will not be displayed to the user at that moment in the web page when the user visits the site. Now, it's in the body that the user will be able to see whatever he or she is looking for. So inside the body now contains the visible contents of the web page. Now, H1 defines the heading, and we have different levels of heading. We have H1 to H6. Now, the higher the number, the lower the heading. Now we are at H1 now. You see, the heading was very, very big. The heading was very, very big. If you go to H2, it will be it's going to be smaller than the H1, like that till H6. The H6 is the last level of heading that we have. Then we have the paragraph that you want to include the paragraph, just like a normal regular paragraph that you know in English language. That is how it is here. A regular paragraph, you want just a write-up content, you write it in your web page. You put that inside the p tag. Okay. All right. So let me go to my VS Code now. I want to create my document now. Okay, I go to new file. When I click on new file, it gives me where I will type the name of my file. Now, one thing about HTML is that whenever you have an HTML file, you must save it with .html so that it will be able to be like your browser will be able to render it for you. You save it with .html. Now, I've saved my file with .html. Now, I begin my code. Okay, so the first part was the doc type. Was doc type HTML. Okay, I've defined my version of. Then I have my root element HTML. Then I close it. Now, why I advise people to use why I advise people to use ID is that you have things like this when you open a tab, because in HTML you must open a tab and you close it. This is an opening tag and this is a closing tag. Sorry, this is a closing tag. The closing tag comes with a forward slash. It comes with a forward slash before the name of the tag. Now inside it is where I'm going to put my contents. And I have the first part of my HTML is the head. Now inside the head, you see another thing for the in the Visual Studio Code when you're using ID is that it will help you arrange your code. If you see now, since the head is inside HTML, it has indented it under the HTML, and everything that will come inside the head will be indented under the head. And I have here for my title, I have my title that I can say first class. And I can say, okay, webinar. Let me just put it webinar class. All right, so I'll go to, after the closing tab, I get over to the next line and I begin my body. I begin my body. Now, inside the body now, I define my first heading, H1. Sorry. I have my H1. Then the H1 now I say, okay, our first tutorial. All right, so I make a paragraph, just a normal text like I told you. Okay, I am happy to join this webinar. All right, so if I go to my file explorer now, how do you open this page? Now you may ask a question, how do you open it in your browser? Now you navigate to your file explorer. Sorry, you navigate to your file explorer now. Now this is the folder where my file is. I open my folder, and this is the file I just created. Now I right click on it. Now you see the logo of my browser is already there because I specified it .html. I gave it an extension .html. My browser logo is already there because my system knows that okay, this is a web page. I'll go to open with. Now open with, I choose my browser, Microsoft Edge. Now it has opened it. Nothing is inside the. Okay, yeah, we have our heading here. Sorry, we have our heading here, our first tutorial, and we have I am happy to join this class. You understand? Then we have up here in our tab, we have the webinar class as a name, as a title that I gave to the websites. Okay. All right, so let's proceed now. Let's talk about the tags and elements. I've mentioned something about tags and elements. What do you know about tags and elements? It is on what we are going to actually talk about now. Now, the elements encompasses the opening tag, the closing tag, and the contents of it. That is what we call an element. But when we talk about tag, we have two types of tags. We have the opening tags and the closing tags. Now here in my screen, on my screen, you have the tag name as the opening tag, and you have a tag name for the closing tag. Now the difference between the closing and the opening tag is the / in the that is included in the back in the closing tag in front of the name before you enter the name of that tag. Now the name of the tag could be the H1 that I just used, could be the P. We have so many elements. So the tag name could be a div. It can be H1, can be P. That is for the paragraph. We have this thing. We have the list LI for the list item. We have OL for ordered list. We have so many of tags that we use. Now each of these tags depends on what you want to use it for. Now aside the full tag which comes with the opening and closing tag, we have what we call the empty tags. Now empty tags are tags that they don't have opening and closing and they don't have contents. It's just them on their own. That's why they're calling them single. They don't have the closing. It's just them, no content in it. All right. Now let's proceed. We have the different examples of tag we have talked about. We have seen how the H1 is used. We have seen the paragraph. Now list. We have ordered lists where you used to open a list. Now a list item is enclosed inside the LI. LI means list item. Now if you want to include a list of items in your website, you use this tag. Then you have a division. A division is used to group elements in a block. You have elements that we group. Now as we proceed, you see how we make use of these tags. Okay, because we are going to actually develop something today. All right, we have what we call attributes. Now an attribute provide information for an element. You have an element now and you want to give it an information. You want to maybe you want to give it a class, or you want to give it an identity. That's what ID means. Or you want it to belong to a particular class, or you want it to have a particular behavior, you understand, or a particular appearance. So you use what we call attribute. Now, how do you include attribute? Inside the opening tag, after the tag name, you have the attribute. Now, you always have attribute and a value. You have the attribute equals to a value inside a quote, double quotation. Take note. Then before you have the the content inside and the closing tag. Your attribute comes in the opening tag. Now let's see some attribute that we have. Inside the tag, we can have a class attribute. Now, if a class allows you to give an element a class, so many elements can belong to classes. You understand? But when we talk about ID, the second attribute that we're talking about here is like I'm giving a particular element an identity, and each element has its own ID. Each element has its own ID. Two elements are not permitted to have the same ID, but many elements can belong to the same class. You understand? So your name identifies you. Your structure identifies you. Even if some other person has your name, but the person is different from you. That's what class and ID means. Your structure is your ID. You understand? Your facial appearance is your ID. Your name, any other person can answer your name. Okay, so we have the src attribute, which means source. Now, if you want to include an image or a script file, like a JavaScript file to your work, you use a source. Like now, I specified an image now, and I use the source, and I have the source now is where my image is located. You understand? If I want to put an image in my work, I will specify where my image is located. Then we have the href, that is the hyperreference. That is when you are adding a link to your web page, you will specify where the link should go to. That is when you click on a part button and it takes you to a part page. You click on sign up and it opens a sign up page. You understand? Those are links. Then you have alternate. Alternate is if you have a source in your image tab and the image is not there, what should appear? What should it tell the user? So you have the alternate text that will appear if your image is not found. Okay, we have what we call formatting elements. We have elements that are used to format our display in HTML. Okay, so I'll head over back to my VS Code. Okay, all right. So I already have an image in my folder. If you see it here, we have an image in my folder, and I want to include it in my web page. You understand? Let me organize this my web page very well. Now, I want this to have I want to give my image now. I say a div. I give it a div. Now, inside this div now, I give it an attribute. I give it a class name. Then I can say the class name should be background. You understand? Now inside it here, I want to put an image. I now use the img tag. I now use the img tag. The img is one of the tags that doesn't have a closing. It's a single tag. It only have an attribute that specifies the image. Now, the attribute that will specify where my image is src. Now, src now, I will check where my image is located. Since if you check by the left-hand side of my application now, you see a file explorer. It's a small file explorer. Now, this is all the files that is inside that folder. These are all the files that are inside the folder. Now, let me open the folder again so that you people will see. Now, this is a folder. This is a folder now. These are the files that are inside the folder. This is my folder now. So we have the dist, we have the BG, we have the index. Now, if you check here, back to the left-hand side, you see these files located. Now, since my image is BG, since my image is already in the same location as my HTML file, I don't need to specify a long path to it. I will need to just call the name of the image. You understand? I've grouped them inside a folder. All of them are inside a folder. So inside the source, I will just specify the image name, that is the BG, and the extension BG.jpg. Remember, if your image is PNG, take note. If your image is WEBP, take note. If your image is JPEG, take note of it. Take note of that because it is not going to recognize your image if you don't include that extension. So I have the JPG. Now I save it. I save it now. If you check, I've not specified anything on the okay, so Sorry, let me open this again. The page for it to appear. Now, this is the image I just included, and since it was on top, you see the image is on top and the right top is below. That is the image I just included in my web page. Okay. All right, so this is the image now. It has been included in my web page. Okay. Now I've been able to insert that image. Okay, let's see what happens if I use an attribute called alt. If I use an attribute called alt, what happens? Let me just say no image. I just put a text there, no image. Then I remove the name of this image here. Or maybe I remove, sorry. I remove the image, I put the name of the image, but I did not put the extension. Then going back to my browser here. If I refresh now, you see I don't have the image again. And what is there? No image. That is the alternate. What appears when there is no image? Alternate appears when there is no image or when the image is not found. Okay. So I go back to my page, then I continue. All right, so let's proceed. We have what we call formatting element, and the first one is the bold. We have the bold and emphasis. Now we have the B tag for the bold. The B tag for the bold. Now inside my wait, let me remove this image first. My paragraph. I have the webinar. I have this. I am happy to join this webinar class. Now let me make this to be bold. I add a tag. I will add a tag called the B tag. The B tag makes it bold. Then I type my webinar inside. Now, like you all know what a bold text is all about. Now, the bold text now is going to make that webinar to be bold. If you see my browser, let me increase my. Okay, so now you can see now, I am happy to join this webinar. Our webinar is in a bold state. You understand? That is work of the bold. It makes it to be bolder than other text. Now, you have other emphasis presents the text just like in a bold state, but the emphasis has effect on the text different from the regular bold. Now, what is strong now? Yes, it adds emphasis and strong importance to that element, even though they are still displaying bold. You understand? Now, when you say, let's make it bold, as you have seen below here, the bold here I'm talking about is the normal B tag. But if you say beware, pickpockets operates in this area. Now, you see that I'm trying to lay an emphasis, special emphasis to this word that I'm using here. The word will be displayed bold, but it's adding emphasis to it, which you might not really get to see the difference. But if you are using a screen reader, there are some devices, not some devices, in our devices, we can enable screen readers that when you open a web page, it reads everything on the page for us. Now, this screen reader is going to let you know when there is a bold and when it is a strong text. The way it's going to pronounce it, it's going to pronounce it with emphasis. It can just say, okay, the first one, you can say, let's make it bold. But if you are using a screen reader and you are using a strong text, they're not bold, you can say, let's make it bold. Like, it will emphasize on that. You understand? But the display here is the same. Okay. All right. So the next one, I talk about italics and emphasis. Italics will make the text appear slightly, and the emphasis, the same thing. It is going to make it slightly, but different. This thing, it has different formatting to it. Now, it lays importance, when you're using the EM. EM is used for the emphasis. I is used for the italics. That is the I tag. Remember, when I mention this element, I will just be mentioning the name of this element, but I want you to know that each of these elements, as even though I mentioned the name, you enclose them in angle brackets. If you see them, they are enclosed in angle brackets. So they have the opening and the closing. The closing comes with the forward slash. Okay, now this emphasis and italics, they behave the same way when you see their display, but in actual sense, they have different things that they are doing. So you need to know when to use an italics when you are just styling your text to be italicized. But when you're adding an emphasis to a text with a kind of importance to that text, you understand, you know where that is where you need to use an emphasis. This shoe belongs to David. That is an emphasis. And you are emphasizing that it is David that has this shoe. But if you just want a text to appear in italics, use I, the I tag. All right, I proceed. Then we have what we call superscript and subscript. Okay, you have a number that says 2 raised to the power of 4. That is superscript. 4 is a superscript, like what you have here. A number that is raised above the normal level. That is a superscript. And a value that is below the line is a subscript. Okay, the line that is above the normal line is a superscript. Then you use the SUP for the superscript and use SUB for the subscript. Now, let's see. All right, so back to our VS Code. I have 30. Okay, inside my P tag, I have 30 to the power of 10. So I will have to include my SUP tag. Then whatever I'm going to make it to go up, whatever text or opening and the closing, that's the content, from the content of that particular tag. So I'll have just refresh your browser to see the effect. Now you see 30 is on the normal level, while 40 is raised up. Okay, now let's write H2O. That's for water. Is you have the P. Now you have H down. Now the 2 is going to come down, so I enclose it inside the SUB. The SUB tag now, and I have the 2 inside there. Then going back here, I have my O in capital letter. Okay, then I check my browser again. I refresh. You see that H is there, 2 is below, and O. That is how we can format that to have a subscript and a superscript text. All right, then let's go further. We have what we call quotation, and we have the pre-element. Sorry. When we talk about quotation, quotation is in 2 types. We have the long quote and we have the short quote. Now the long quotes, for the long quote, you use what we call block quote. Like if you have a quote that is long, you understand? If you have a quote that is long, you have to use the block quotes. Like now, what we do here is the block quote allows, like, it indents your text. Than you see where the previous write-up is and where the next write-up, where you say life is what happens when you are busy making other plans. Then you see there is a space between the beginning of the line and the actual content. Now, this is how the block quote presents its text. Now, we are talking about the quote itself, the Q tag. The Q tag encloses them in quotation. Be the change you wish to see in the world. You understand? You see it enclosed in a double quote. If you check my code, up here is the code I used for this. You see that all of them are wrapped inside the P, like a normal paragraph. You see, you can wrap your HTML element inside other elements. This is called nesting, putting HTML the element inside other elements. Okay, so you have the Q that wraps the be the change you wish to see in the world. Then it's enclosed inside the Q. Then you have the Gandhi as the name of the person that wrote that code. outside it. So that's why you are able to see the double quotation and closing it. Then you see the next one is a long quote that says life is what happens when you are busy making other plans. You understand? So that's for the quotes. Then we have what we call pre. You have what we call pre. Now, if you check well, you see up here, I have a write-up that says function greet console log. The way I typed it inside my code is the way it is appearing out here. Why? Because I'm using a pre means pre-formatted tags. Now, the way, however you write your code is how it's going to present it to you. However you write your content, if you like keep space, if you like skip lines, is going to present it that way for you. Now, this is best used if you have something like you want to include something like poems or songs inside your website. It allows you to format them the way you know they are text. The text in a poem, you can have short lines into different lines. So if you are using this, it will allow that formatting to maintain. If you are using the P tab, it will join everything together. You understand? So, all right. So let's enter our CSS in full. We are talking about HTML. HTML is so boring, so boring. But the CSS part is going to make it very, very interesting, because this way you are going to see manipulations. You are going to see how we can position this thing to the left, position this thing to the right, take it up, take it down. You can move elements freely on the screen. All right. How do we add styles to our work? First, we have what we call inline styles. Second, we have internal style sheet. Then thirdly, we have external style sheet. We are going to talk about these three, but we are going to use one. Hello?
Okay. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. It's a wonderful presentation. You just did HTML. It has been a very good time here. We've learned a lot. We've learned all the big grammar and everything. At least we are getting a lot of things. We've seen you break some things. I believe some people have questions, and we'll be taking a few questions for HTML now before we continue with CSS. Hope you don't mind our facilitator.
Okay, let's attend to some questions.
Okay, so for now, if you have a question, since we are not so many, you can raise your hand. You will find a reactions button. You click on the reactions and then you see raise your hand. If there is something you did not get, you can raise your hand and then you can ask a question. So, but there was a question in the comment section. The question was thus, is it true all tags are basically a box-like structure? Is it true all tags are basically a box-like structure? So over to you, Mr. Facilitator.
All tags, yeah, all tags uses the box model. That is, we are going to talk about it inside the CSS. All tags that you use, like, okay, let me not say all tags. Let me say full elements, not excluding the single elements, because I made mention of single elements. These ones also, they don't have a content in them. Okay, so they are they all have the box structures. Now, the box structure here, okay, including the single, sorry, including all of them, all tags. The question is if all tags have box structure. Yes, all of them have box structure. That is, we are going to talk about that inside our CSS, so we can see. Now, what it means is that when you say like a paragraph, it opens a box. It opens a box, and this box has a boundary. It has a boundary, and it's inside the box is where your content is going to be displayed. You understand? Is where the content is going to be displayed. The content cannot exit the boundary of that tag. So it has the up, it has the left and right, top and bottom. So these are the boundaries. So this is how it forms the box. You have the top, bottom, and the left and right. Joining them together, you see that it is like a box. And we have what we call the margin and padding. We are going to talk about it fully in CSS. All of them have the box structure. I hope it's clear.
Okay. Thank you very much for that answer. I'm sure we got that clear. Now I'm going to ask Right Michael to unmute and then ask the question he has. Right Michael, you have about 30 seconds to explain your question. Right Michael, unmute and ask your question.
Hello, good evening.
Good evening.
Yeah, good evening.
Hello, good evening.
Yeah, we can hear you. Good evening.
Okay, sorry, before now, I've actually gone through some HTML, CSS readings, and I I have not still understand the div tag because this someone said the div tag is like an empty box. I don't really understand that word, the empty box.
Okay. Edith Young, his question is the div tag
Okay.
an
I've
empty box?
I've heard the question. I've heard the question. Let me attempt. I've heard the question. Okay. You don't need to confuse yourself about the div tag because I just mentioned it now. Now let me bring in another tag here. We have the div and the span. We have div and the span. The two of them are grouping tags. They are used to group elements. Of course, we are going to use it today. They are used to group elements. Let's assume now I have something, I want to group them together. Maybe I'm writing something about myself, then I want to group my profile, like personal information together. I can group my name, my age, my date of birth, where I'm from. I can group it together. Then I want to talk about my profession. I can talk about myself, what I do, the things I'm into, what I like, my hobbies. You understand? You use the div tag to group them. Now, the div tag group this thing in block. Now we have what we call block elements and we have what we call inline elements. If you see very well from what I did here, I used the B tag here. And you see, it only add the style to this webinar, the bold. Now, if I'm to use a block elements will span the whole of this width of the screen. The whole width of the screen, that's what block element does. Now, the div groups something, groups items in block. Whether the contents, like you see where this class ends now, this write-up, I'm happy to join this webinar class, where it ends now. I'm using a P tag. Now, the P tag is an example of block element. So now, it doesn't mean that it has ended there. It still takes up the space. That is when we are talking about the box model, what the previous question was all about. When you use the div tag, it creates a big box that to start from the beginning of the web of that line to the end of that line, and whatever content that you want to put there, whatever content that you want to group, it will be inside that box. That is the block elements. That is the div groups that those elements in block. Now, if you are using span will only group that element from where it starts to where the content ends. It doesn't take up the full bit. So the div is a grouping element. It doesn't really have any special effects except to use and group elements in block. That is what it does. So if you just create a div tag and you don't put anything, it will not have any effect on your website.
Okay. Thank you for that explanation. So we are going to move on. I'm sure, right, Michael, you're clear. We are going to move on to the next question.
All right, you are going to be much clear on this when I start using it, because we are doing much of practical. So we see how it is. So let's not be abstract on our topic today. Okay, please, the next question.
Okay, Aziz Adams, unmute and ask your question.
Okay. Please, can you hear me?
Good evening.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can.
Yeah.
Shoot.
Okay. So, my question is, I think when you're explaining something, you talk about single tags. So I didn't get what you mean by that single tag. And the next question is that we have to learn every damn thing about HTML tags. Like you have to learn every HTML tag before we move to CSS before we keep like going on from there.
Okay.
It's a very good question.
I said something from the beginning of the class. Like, what we are going to learn is things that will help us to start building web pages. Now, the whole of HTML has 140 something tags. I know you might shout it's very, very big, very, very big. Yes, I will tell you, I've been developing, I've been working, but it doesn't mean that when you want to build a particular website that you have to use all of the websites and all of the web tags. No. Now we have so many tags and they have so many usage. So if your website needs a particular thing, you need to go, okay, someone gives you a work, now you get a work and you say, the person say, okay, I need a website, I want to be posting videos, I want to be doing this. You know that, oh, just go and be doing just go and do a little research. Oh, which tag can I use to do a video? You can use that. You don't need to learn all of these tags at the same time. But the more you use them, the more you get to know the usage. The most important thing is know their usage, not knowing their names. Know their usage. You understand? And HTML has made it very, very easy that a name of a tag represents what it does. So what you need to learn now is learn how to structure your website. Now, you have the heading, you must know the heading, which is very, very important because there is no website that doesn't have heading. You must learn to have you must learn your heading, which is H1 to H6. I've talked about that. Then you must learn how to link your sites, your web pages together, how to create a button that will link. Yes, you must learn how to make a paragraph. That is very, very common on every website. You must learn how to make a table. The few tags that you learn may not be up to 20 tags. You understand? But they are the basics that you need to create a web page. All right. So your first question, you were talking about empty elements. Okay. I made mention of them, and I said they are elements that do not have closing tag. Now, this is the slide I was talking about, the tag and elements. If you check this representation here, this diagram I have here, you have the tag name, you have opening tag, you have the content, and you have a closing tag. This forms an element itself. And this is a full element, like I said. But we have elements that they don't have closing tag and they don't have content. The only thing they have is just the opening tag and an attribute. Those are closing tags. And I have not used any of them in my work. Okay. Here, example, one of the example of a single tag is the break. Okay, I have something here. I have a text here. I have a paragraph here. Paragraph says this is my first class and I am happy to be here. Today is Friday. Sorry, today is Saturday. Am I right? Okay. Now you have this now. If you go back to your page and refresh your page, you have that. This is my first class. I'm happy to be here. Today is Saturday. Fine. But I want this today is Saturday to be on the next line. I have a tag called breaking, the line break. Now it is example of a single tag. It doesn't have a content inside. Just wherever you want the breakings to start, I want from today to go to the next line. I just have BR. Sorry. I also have the tag BR. See how the tag is BR. Open with the angle bracket, close it with the angle bracket, and the name of the tag in between. No contents there. Then when you go back to your browser and you refresh, you see that that's taking it to the next line. Then another example is the horizontal rule. I have the HR. Please, the next question. This is it. If you check my sites now, if you scroll down, you actually see the line that I just wrote. So let me put it at the top here so that it will be visible. HR. It doesn't have any content. All right, you see the line here. I did not put any content. I did not tell it to write a line for me. Just the tag itself. It knows what it does. So that is an example of a single tag. Any other question?
All right, that will be all the questions for now. So we should be moving on to the second part, which is CSS. We have until 9:30 for this class. So sorry, yes, we have until 9:30. So let's get the second part rolling. Thank you very much.
Okay, we are going to talk about CSS, but first, sorry, I need to clear some things here. So let's start using some elements here in our first websites. Okay, so I've cleared some things here. We are actually going to see how we can style our work and see what we can come up with, because we are talking about a CSS for styling. So we need to see this styling and what we have been able to style. Understand? Okay, so I have okay, now I have the div, like what one of our participants has the div. Now I've used it to group the first element to be for a background. Now I have another div here. I have my second div. I'll say content. Sorry, I'm typing in shortcuts. Sorry, I'm used to it, but let me type in full. All right, I have the div, the second div, and I give it a class name. Take note, I'm giving the class names. Content. This is going to be the contents of our site. Then the first thing we are going to have is our H1. Then what does our H1 says? Says I am a web developer. Okay. Then we have our second to be our paragraph. Okay. I have the languages I work with: HTML, I have CSS, I have JavaScript, I have Python, I have PHP. All right, so the next thing here is I have another div. I want to group another things now. You know what I'm doing here is I grouped these contents now to be the H1, the P, and another group. This is just like having a small bag inside a big bag. I don't know if you get what I'm saying. So this is just like having a small bag inside a big bag. So I have another one that I give it a class name. Sorry. The class name here says buttons. Okay. Let me just say page. Two words like what I did now. You don't give space between them. You join them together. Either you use the dash. I can just say page button, but I don't like using the dash. Okay. Then inside it, I have a button. Now we use the button tag. We have what we call the button. We have the button tag for creating a button. You understand? For creating a button. Now I close my button. Inside my button, I will say about me. I use exclamation. About me. Let me just say about me. The second button. I say hire me. Okay, so let's see what we have on our web page. All right, so on my web page, what do I see? I refresh my page. See, I've been able to have this. This is what I have. The image itself so big. You understand? So big. Why I did not tell the image where it should stay and where it should not go to. I did not tell the image what it should do for me. I just put the image the way it is. All right. So below here I am a web developer. I have HTML, CSS. Oh, these are the buttons, right? Is everything there? Okay. Hope you guys are hearing me.
Okay.
Yes, sir. Right on, sir.
Now this is what we have here on our page. Now let's go to our CSS slide. Okay. All right. So we are talking about how to add styles to our face website, our face web page. Okay. So we have 3 ways that we can link our CSS. The first one is inline. Second one is internal. Now the inline is when you use an attribute. Remember, I told you something about HTML attribute that they are used to tell the behavior of a particular element, how they are used to give information about a particular element. Now, when you use a style attribute, there is an attribute called style inside the tag, inside an element. It is called inline style. Now, here, example here is we have used the style. If you check from the right hand side, we have been able to use the style attribute. We have been able to use the style attribute to add a blue color to a paragraph and also to change the font size. We have styling properties that we use. Now, the styling properties are enclosed inside the double quotes. Now, this forms the value of this attribute. Now, if you have multiple style properties, you differentiate them with using the semicolon. Now, when you have a style property has its value also. So between the style property name and the value of the style, you use the colon. And between a style and another style, you use semicolon. Please, you need to take your English seriously because we have colon and we have semicolon. You need to understand and differentiate between the two. We have different styles inside our head tag. Sorry, inside our tag that we are using for our elements. Now, let me put up an example here. Inside our H1 now, I want this H1 now to be I have a style attribute. Sorry, I have a style attribute now. Inside the style, I have I want to change the color. Color is spelled the American way, not our British way. Color, C-O-L-O-R, so no U. Then for the color name, I have my colon. If you see, I have my colon there, differentiating the name and the value. Now, I want the color of my tag to be brown, though we are not going to use brown. I'm just showing an illustration now. Then after that star, I need to end it with the semicolon. In case I have another style like I will have like text align. We have what we call text align. Then inside the text align, I have center. I want to position it at the center. All right. So I now save. Going back to my page, I will refresh. When I refresh it, you see that it's already given me a brown color heading, and it has taken it to the center of the page. You understand? It has taken it to the center of my page. That is it. Okay, but we don't need that, just for illustration. Now, that is when you are using inline style. Now we have what we call internal style. In inline style, you see now that this style now is only affecting here. It's only affecting here. Now we have what we call the internal. Okay, I'll talk about the external. Now, what does external mean? I will create a new file called style.css. I click on new file. I say style.css. You can give it any name, but whatever name that you give it, make sure that it has the .css extension. HTML files have .html extension. CSS files must have .css file extension. You understand? So I have it .css, style.css. Now, how do I link this inside my HTML? As it is now, HTML doesn't know that it has a style though. It doesn't know what is going on here. What I do is I go to my HTML file. Into my HTML file, I scroll up to the head. I told you the head does not just contain the title, the task, what we call resources. Now, my CSS file becomes one of the resources I'm going to use in my work. So after the title, I have what we call link tag, the link. It is used for linking a CSS file into your HTML file. So you have the link tag now. Okay. But I made a mistake somewhere. Okay. The link tag is one of the another tag without closing. Sorry, I made a mistake. It doesn't have closing. It only has the attribute. It has the rel, which is the relationship. That is, the rel is used to establish a relationship between your HTML and your file that you are linking here. It's not just only style sheet that we use. We have other sheets that we use. So me saying style sheets here means that I'm telling my HTML that this file that I'm calling for you is a style sheet. So use it for styling. You understand? I've given it instruction. Now use it for styling. So that is the reason for this style sheet now. So href now is a reference to where my to the name of the style. Remember, I have all my files structured together here. When we get to our advanced class, we are going to talk about how we can structure our documents. Normally, this is not our proper way of structuring our documents. If you are doing a web development and you are starting your work like this, that you have not yet started, yes, because we have ways we structure our files. We structure our CSS files together, we structure our HTML files together, our JavaScript files. When the files become, I'm just using this because we don't have much files yet, just our image, our HTML and our CSS. If you are, when you have like many pages and many CSS files and JavaScript, you have to structure them very well so that you'll be able to access them, even your images, the fonts, everything that you're using. Okay, so I have here that my CSS file is on the same line, on the same folder with my HTML. So I just have to call the name style.css. See, it has already suggested it for me that that's found it. So style.css. Now, what do? I go to my CSS, and there is what we call selectors. If you check my page now, I think this color I've removed the color, we have removed everything. So how do I add this? We have what we call selectors. Let's talk about selectors. Now the the CSS selectors. First one, we have the element selector, which is where you call the elements with the name. We want to style an H1, we call it with H1. We want to style a paragraph, we call it with P. We want to style a div, we call it with div. We want to style anything that we want to style, we call it with the name of its elements. That's why you say we are using element selector. The second one, we have the ID selector, where you have the ID name of that element. Then whenever you are calling an element with an ID, remember, when you're calling an element with an ID, it must be preceded with the hash notation. You have the hash, you know the normal hash that you press on your phone now, star 1, 2, 3 hash star, this hash. Now the hash now must be before the name of the class. Okay, then we have the class selector. Now for the class selector, you use the dots. The dots must precede the name of the class. ID hash must precede the class, the ID, the class, the dots must precede. So you have dots, the name of the class. Then you have the descendant selector. When you are styling an element that is inside another element, that's what we mean by descendant. An element that is inside another element becomes the descendant of that element. Then we have the child selector. When you are targeting a specific child of an element, that's the children, you use the greater than sign. This is how it's used. Now, what do I mean here? Going back to our HTML, if you want to add a style to this img, and you want to begin it from there, you have to, this img is a child to this div, this particular div now. While inside this other div, the second div that we have here, we have h1, b, and div to be the children of this div with ID, with the class contents. We have, you need to pay more attention to this part. The child, as a descendant, ancestor, and parents. We all have that here. The same way we have in our families, we have it here. So the body as a whole here is the parents to everything here. Now the body has two children in this case. The body has two children in this case. The first child is the div with the class background. The second child is the div with the class content. Now, the div with the class background has one child, which is the img. The div with contents has 3 children, which is the h1, the paragraph, that is the p, and the div with the class page buttons. Inside here, the div with the class page buttons has 2 children, which are the 2 buttons that we have inside. Now, these 2 buttons form the grandchild to the first div, which is the contents. If you know how to, if you know a family tree, you know how to link this thing very well. While everything inside here, inside this contents, now the div, the h1, the buttons are the descendants. They are all descendants. Remember, the difference between the children and the descendants is that the children are the ones that are directly under it. The h1, the p, the div, and the page button. While the descendants are everything under it, whether it is the child or the grandchild or the great grandchild. So that is the difference. Okay, so that is the different selectors that we have. Now, these selectors allows you to point to any element that you want to start, because you might not want to start every element in your page at the same time. So you use the selectors to select. You understand? Just like when someone comes into a room that we have crowd and the person now wants to talk to you, the person does not just stand and talk to everybody, must call you by your name. It selects you by your name. Okay. Now let's style our work. Okay, let's first of all begin with our image, because the image is too big. Sorry. Okay, now what class are we styling? Because we are going to use these classes to style our work. The parent of the img is the background. So we are going to start the background. How we are going to start style the image and give it the width that we want it to take and height that we want it to take. Then we are going to proceed. Okay. So we have one other important elements that we need to put here in our page. In our page is called the meta. So the meta, now we are going to use the viewport meta. We are going to use the viewport. Now, what it does is that it is used to specify the it's used to capture the screen on which our user. Remember, we talked about responsiveness as a rule that the front end plays in our work. So we need to capture the size of the screen that the user is using to view our web page. Okay, so we have the meta with the name viewport. Now, the viewport, what viewport means is the name of, like, the viewport is the width of the screen which the user is using to access our website. So we are going to capture it to know whether it is a laptop or it is a mobile. So we are going to say meta with a name. We give it a name. The name attributes. Remember, this is still attribute. The name of the attribute is viewport. Now, it's going to be used to check the size of the screen that the user is using and how our web page is going to be rendered. So the content here says that the width of our screen, of our site, like the width that our content, our body should take, should be equals to the device width. So whichever device that you are using, is going to capture the width of your device. Okay, then we are going to say initial scale. Initial scale. The initial scale now will be equals to 1 point. Let's just make it to be 1.0. Nice. it should not zoom, it should just display normal. That's what it means. Okay. All right, so I've been able to set that up. Now there is a reason why I set this up, because I want this image now. I want to say that this image should take up the width of the screen and to take up only the height of the screen. It should not be something that should exceed the width of the screen or the height of the screen. All right, so the class name where our image is located, the parents is background. Remember, I used my dots. Okay, the background now, and I'm pointing to the image itself. As the descendant, there must be a space. Understand? I'm pointing to the image itself, the tag name img. Remember, I have the background as a class name for the parent and the img. I hope you don't get confused. So as a descendant, the img is a descendant to this background. So when you're styling a descendant, you use the space. Now you have select your elements where what you want to style. You open a block. This style is a curly brace. Now inside this curly brace is where I'm specifying my style. You understand? So, oh, sorry, I need to give the main parent a style itself. So I want it to take up width. But we have a style called width. It should take up the full 100 view like the 100% of it. That's what I mean. 100% means everything. So take 100% of the width. Okay, I finish it with a semicolon. That is the end of that particular style line. The style property is the width, and the type value is the 100%. Now I say height. Height should be 100% too. No, for the height, I'm not going to say 100%. I'm going to say 100 view height. Instead of me to say percent, I'm saying view height. Now, the view height is, if your screen is phone, it will take the height of the screen of your phone. If my screen is laptop, it will take the height of the screen of my laptop. That is what the view height means. Understand? So let's check our results. Let's see if we have been able to remember. See, before I refresh it, see, I'm scrolling to see the end of my image. I'm scrolling to go up to see my image. Now let me refresh my page. Okay, you see, we are still scrolling to see it because we have not styled the child. That is the image itself. We only give the boundaries for the background. Now let's go for the image. After this closing, I go for the image itself. So the background. Then the background now, I have the image. What do I give to the image? I now say height. The height should be it should be 100% now. Because why I'm using 100% now is the main parent is taking the view height, so it should follow the width also to be 100%. 100%. Okay. So we go back to our page and we see. Now I've been able to scale my image. You see it now. It's taking only the height of my screen and the height of and the width of my screen. Now, if you notice, we have spaces between. It's not really taking all. There is a space at the top. You'll see white spaces around it. It's not really taking all of the width. So now, by default, a web browser gives your page some kind of what we call padding. Now, that is what we mean by box model, the box now. So you see this body now. This body that everything is inside, this body here, everything is inside the body. The body is a box itself. So the body, by default, it gives your browser will add a space between the content and the boundary of the body. So we need to remove all those boundaries. We need to remove everything. So we have the property we call margin and padding. Now we say body. Inside the body, we remove margin. The number margin that you have in your book, that is just to point your mind down there. We say 0. 0, that is no margin. We say padding. Padding is also 0. I will come to explain margin and padding to you. to you guys. All right, if I refresh my page now, you see that the white spaces are off. You understand? The white spaces are off. You don't need it. It might spoil our work for us. So it's always important for you to remove it. It's always important for you to remove it so that you don't get confused on your page. All right, I don't just want to put it only for my body. There is a selector we call universal selector. I forgot to mention it earlier on, but it's very important. It's called the universal selector. I want to remove it for every element. So when you use a universal selector, the style that you put in your universal selector applies to all the elements. So it will get rid of the body. I'll just use what we call the asterisk. The asterisk is a universal selector. It means that this style must be applied to all the elements, irrespective of what type of element I are using. So it's going to apply to all of the elements, because why I'm using the universal selector instead of the body is that the body will only it will only remove for the body, but other element that comes with their own margin and padding will not remove for them. So I want to remove for everything, so that if I want to add, I add it myself. So I save my work. It still applies. We refresh the work, still applies the same thing. So you don't need to scroll to see the end of the photo, but you need to scroll to see the next element that comes in your page. All right. So let's continue in our slides. All right. So we have the next thing now is the box model. That is what we are talking about. That's what we are going to talk about. Sorry, do this whole thing. Okay, now whenever you create an element, please, the guy that asks a question should take note of this. Please, the guy that asks the question should take note of this. When you create an element like the body, the div, the paragraph, it is presented in a box. It is presented in a box. You understand? Now we made mention of the margin and padding here. Then we have what we call border and contents. Inside my elements, now, I have the margin. The margin is the space between the border, that is the boundary. What I was saying, I called it the boundary. The space between the boundary, there's the border, and the next element, and the outside space. You understand? Now the border is the line that rounds up the boundary, that covers the boundary, is the line. Some element comes with border itself. Some elements they don't come with it. You have to add it yourself. So they come with the border. Then we have what we call padding. Padding is the space between the contents and the boundary. Then the content is what is inside your text. Now, all these things are grammar. Let's go to our code. Now, I want to style this H1. Sorry, I'm using inline because I will remove it. Now I have my style attribute. Then I have color. I have color to be, sorry, I have I want to give it a background color. I have background color. We have what we call background color for the background. Then I give it a light background color. Now it's from this background that you people will be able to understand what I mean here. Now, when you refresh this page and you scroll down, you see that this is our HTML. This is our heading. Sorry, I am a web developer. Stop somewhere here. But it takes up the full width of the browser. Why? Because it's a block element. That's what I was trying to tell you about block element. The block element takes up the full width, irrespective of the content. Now the content is, this is the content. The content is the right up here. I am a web developer. The contents here, if you see the space between this content and the end of this line, you see that it is like a box. You see the bottom, you see the top, you see the left and right. Now the space between this particular content now, I'm a web developer, and the end of where the color ends. Where the color ends is the boundary, marks the boundary. The space between them now is the padding. And while the space between the boundary and the next elements, like the space between the picture now and the H1 is is the margin. Now I remove margin and padding for everything. That's why everything is choked up together, is joined together. So if I go back there, and I say margin, I put it margin now, and I say 20, okay, 10 px, because px is, we have what we call measuring units, just like we have cm and in centimeter, like meters. In programming, in web development, we have our units that we use. So px is one of the pixels. That's what it means. All right, so we have the margin. Now, if you check now, I've added a margin to it. So if you refresh now, it will now have a space between that element and other elements. There are spaces now, left, both up the top, bottom, left and right. If I say padding, if I add padding, let's see what padding does. Padding gives, let me say 20 px. Now it is going to be the space between the contents and the boundary. Now you see that they have a space now. So that is the differences between the margin and the padding. Margin is the space outside, while padding is the space inside, between the content and the boundary. So now this one, it doesn't have a border. That is why you cannot see a border line. But you can add a border. You have a property called border. The border property is used to add a border line. So you can specify. Now, how do you want the line to be thick? I want it to be very, very thick, 5 px. Then I want it to be solid, that is straight line. Then I want it to be black. You specify 3 properties for the border: the thickness, the type of line you want, and the color of the line. So I will refresh. When I refresh it, you see that it has a border now. A border is not added to it. So this is a simple example and a simple illustration of a box model. All elements are box form, except you specify that it should be circle. Even when it is circle, it's still in a box. The browser still sees it as a box. It's only you that is seeing it as a circle. So that is what the box model is all about. All right, so I'm going to do away with all this style because we don't need them for the work that we are going to do. We don't need it, so I just do away with this style now for illustration. Okay, so now let's go back to So note, understanding box model helps control spacing and layout of elements. That's 1. 2, padding, border, and margin add space around content in different ways. Adjusting these properties affects the overall visual presentation and spacing of elements. You understand? So we have inside the padding and margin. You know, when I use the margin and the padding, it was adding it to both top, bottom, left, and right. But if you just want to add it to only top, you just want to add it only left or yes, we have what we call margin top, padding top, margin right, padding right, margin left, padding left, margin bottom. So which way you want to put it, you use this value. But if you just want to apply to all of them, you just use margin. Margin will apply instead of you to now have margin top, margin left, margin right, margin bottom. You just use the shortcut margin, and any value that you put there will be applied evenly to all the sides of the box. Okay, so we migrate. You understand? Now we have formatting in CSS. We talked about text formatting in CSS and in HTML before. With this font family, we have talked about color already, so it's not a new thing for us again. We have talked about color. We see now we can change the color of our text. Now we have the font family. Font family can change the family fonts displayed like this. I just want to change the family of my fonts. You know, we have different font size in our system. If you have done something with Microsoft Word, you understand what I mean by font. We have the area, we have the bookmark, we have the vertical, the Cooper. There are so much fonts. So I can change font on my side. So use the font family property and change. Okay, for my element, I want all of them to have a font family of vertical new. And you need to specify that it is a serif or a sans serif. There is difference between serif and sans serif. I will give that to you people to do as an assignment to check what sans serif means and serif. Okay, so we are going to use sans serif. All right, so let's go. I want it to be for my whole page. So it's now I'm going to add a style to my body. So now I will call on my body. I want the whole body of my, that is, I want to apply the style now to the whole body of my HTML. All right, I say font family. Now the font family here, I say I say Helvetica in single quotes. Start with capital letter. Helvetica new. Then separate it like a comma, separate it with the type sans serif. It's a sans serif font. So I just want to show you something. You see how this text is applied. I have not refreshed my browser. See how the I has small tails, that's all those little curly around its body, all the characters. I don't want them. I just want them to be looking serious. Refreshing my page now, it applies a new font to my site. See the I now. So that's the difference between sans serif and serif. If I was using serif font type, it would have been that you still see all those calls around the text. So you gotta read up on what is sans serif and what is sans serif, and what is serif and sans serif, difference between them. We even have what we call cursive, the ones that look like signature. Those ones, those handwriting. Is what I mean. These things are different types of handwriting. That's what it means. But you still go and make your research and find out more about them. All right, it's very, very important when you're building your website though, so that you know when to use sans serif, you know when to use serif, you know when to use cursive. All right, we have the text align. I've used text align. Now the text align now allows you to put your text in center, left, or right. The same way you align your text in Microsoft Word. You take your text to the left, take your text to the center, you align them. So that's what we are talking about. So we use the text align. You're able to position your text to the right, to the left, or to the center. And we have what we call line heights. How do you want the line to be between the write-up in each line? That is, like I'm having a write-up here now between my I am a web developer and HTML CSS. What's the space I want between them? So that is the line height. Okay. Now let's proceed. We have positioning property. So now it's going to help us to position our work very well. All right. So we have static. By default, without applying a position to your HTML elements, you have them positioned in static way. They are positioned in static. Then we have relative. Relative is okay. You have a position. You have that the element is in its position, but relative will allow you to move it from where it is. Understand? You can remove the element from a particular where it is. It will not affect other elements when you position it relative. It will allow the relative only allows you, okay, I want this thing to still be here, but I want to shift it a bit from that place. Then other element will still be there. Then we have the absolute. Absolute allows you to move the elements. Then it will allow other elements to take over. Like it's like making that element to be floating. Make that element to be floating. Then other element, it can stay on top of other elements, can overlap other elements. That's what absolute means. Then fixed means that thing is fixed there. Anything can pass, anything can go under it, but that thing is fixed. No matter how you scroll your page, it is fixed. Okay. So for this class, we are going to talk about we are going to focus on the relative and absolute. Then we use a property. Now we are going to use the flex property. The display property allows you to specify how your elements are being displayed. So for the class, we are going to talk about the flex display, and we are going to talk about our relative and absolute. Or let's get over back to our style. Sorry. Okay, we want to make this to appear at the center of this image now. We want it to be at the center of this image. This write-up, I'm a web developer, HTML, CSS, hire me, about me. We want it to be at the center of the page. So how do we go about that? All right, we go to our style. So we have here our contents. You remember all these things are wrapped inside content. Okay, so what do we do? We go to our content and style it. So we give it a style and we say position. Sorry, let me scroll up a bit. We say position. Say position, then we have absolute. Now you see the effect of the absolute position that I'm talking about. Now, if I refresh my page 5, okay, I want my image, I want my background to appear also as absolute position. Absolute. Okay. Now we refresh. You see it now. I've made it to come up the image now, but I want it to be at the center of it. Now we have here the absolute now allows something to overlap. Can come up, can go below. Okay. So now if you want the image to go below, you add what we call Z index there. Or if you want the background to go up, that is the background now to go up, you add a property. There's a property called Z index, but we are coming to that. All right, so now it's going to the top more. We don't want it to the top too much at the top. We don't want it too much at the below. So we now say to the top, it should be 50%. Okay, should be 50% positioned. Okay, so now you see it now, it's bringing it down. Now I say to the left, because it's taking it to the left. To the left now, I can say 50% to 50%. Okay. And let me say width, the width of it. Let me specify the width of it. The width will now be 100 view width. Sorry. I'll say 100%. Okay, I need to reduce my length from 50. I'll kind just to reduce it to 30%. Then it now bring my work back. Maneuvering the values here to suit what I need, to suit what I want on my web page. See it now. Now, how do I want it to display? I want it to display flex. Now, flex means that it should align elements to itself. Like it should align the elements to occupy a space. So I say display. The elements should be displayed in flexible mode. That's what I mean. Display flex. Sorry, I have to use colon here. Say flex. Now see it now. See the way it's capturing my work now. I want it to be arranged in columns. So flex direction should be column. Should be arranged like stacked from top to bottom. So see them. Then I want them to be justified to the center. Justify content center. I want them to be centralized. F5. Let me remove this bit. Okay, I align the items to the center also. All right, so you see it now. I've justified the content to the center. Okay, it's like it's coming down a bit. Let me take it off. Okay, let me reduce the top. I can reduce the top to 40%. Then I have my page coming up. Let me say 30%. All right, you see the write-up is kind of not showing up. Then I'll make it to be white. So I'll just say color. I'll now say color. I use white. So see now, my content now is displaying color. All right, I can see add styling to the higher me and about me. Now these are like buttons now. You see now, I've been able, this page now, the page is not really scrolling again. It's taking the full width of the screen and everything is displayed at the center. Okay, so I can now choose to the button now. What do I do to the buttons? I can okay, so let me give it a star. I'll check the class name. I can say page buttons. I can say margin. Now this when I'm using margin top. Using margin top now, and I'm saying 20 px is going to be. Let me just say 30 px. Let me just say 30 px now. If you go back to our page, sorry. If you refresh now, you see that it has brought it a bit down. It has brought it a bit down, but it's too much. Can reduce it to 20. All right, you people should start preparing your questions because we are almost done here. So see our arrangement now, and I can even style my buttons. I can even style my buttons. I can say, remember the page buttons is their parents. Then the button itself, the name of the button. Sorry, BUTTN, BUTTON. Now the name of the button, I can now say border. I can now say border now. I can say let me use 3px. I use 3px. I can say solid. I can say solid blue. Or let me just say teal. It might not look nice, but sharp. We just want to achieve something today. Understand? So I've added background to it. Let me increase it again. Let me change the color. Now, one thing about here is that you can actually come here and change your color how you want it to be. You can come here and adjust the color here. You can adjust the color what I want. So I can give it a 5. Now you see the color, though it's not still showing well. Let me just use kind of red, though it's not matching with our work. Okay, so I've given it a color red. Then I will have to give it padding. Padding is now the space between the text. So I can now say 8px. I hope you guys are following me. All right, so this is it now. This is our work. Then we can add more stylings to it as much as we want. So you've seen that we have been able to achieve this with what we have learned today. So let's get back to our browser. Let's get back to our browser. Okay. Okay, so here it is. We have almost round up in our class. So we've talked about the display properties. We have other display properties, the block, inline, and none. And they are so broad, we cannot really consume all of them now. We just focus on what we needed for our page to display. So talking about responsive design, we have what we call the media queries. Now, like what I just did now, I've not added any responsive design to it. Like if you are viewing that site on our phone, it will be kind of scattered and tattered. It's not going to look nice. We have what we call media queries that we use for our responsive design. So we check on a big screen, what should it do? On a small screen, what should it do? Okay, the benefit for responsive design is that it gives a user experience, consistent user experience across the device, improve readability, readability and usability on smaller screen, and it allows content to remain accessible and visually appealing. Now, when you are developing your sites, I will advise you always picture it as if everybody has a smartphone. So you start your site with the mobile approach. Make it look good as it should be in a phone, because less you view it as everybody has a phone. No, not everyone has access to laptop. Yes, definitely your site, people will be viewing it on phone. So have that first approach to mobile. Then you have relative units. Now you see me using PX. PX is not user friendly when it comes to responsive design. You use what percentage? We have percentage, we have EMs, and we have REM. We have so many of them. So PX, that is the pixels, is not really friendly, but it doesn't mean that you cannot use them. You can use them. Also, if you are able and if you are very good at making responsive designs, you can use them. Then we have always test your work on different devices before you say you are done with it. All right, so this is what I actually mean by responsive design. When you use what we call the media query here, you specify that, okay, at a particular screen width, this is how my work is going to appear. Okay. All right, so talking about this responsive design, this it's now, you see this site now on the big screen. This is how it displays on a laptop. How does it display on a tablet? How does it display on a laptop? How does it display on a phone? You see the different layouts. Now, whether I'm using a phone, whether I'm using a laptop, I'm able to access everything on that site. You understand? So this is another example here, how it is being displayed on the laptop, how it is displayed on this the big screen, that is the desktop, and now it is on our palm top. Our tablets, our iPad, and our normal smartphone. All right, so we've been able to talk about web development, the process involved in web development, the front end, the back end, but we're focusing on the front end today. Then we've seen so many things from the CSS angle and of the HTML. CSS is for styling, HTML is for the structure of the site. Then we have been able to see how we can add styles to what we were doing, the work that we were actually doing, though we have not completed, but I will complete it in our full class. Okay, so you need this basic knowledge for you to start developing. You need this basic knowledge for you to start building web pages. There are so many other things inside it that you need to understand. Yes, knowing this means that you are already there. You are already, let me just say, out of 100%, you are already 50% there. So you just have to get to understand some few things, then you are there. And that will bring us to our full class, where we'll be taking HTML, CSS, and JavaScript for the front-end development. And I hope to see you guys there. And I believe you people are ready to become front-end developers, even if you don't want to be a full stack. As a front-end developer, you can start earning. Then when you now earn and you see that, oh, I'm a front-end developer, I want to go into full stack, you can now proceed to the full stack. And before you know, you are now a full stack developer, back-end, front-end, anywhere it comes from, you are able to do your work and deliver your work, okay? Rather than you will be waiting for okay, a backend developer will now call you to come and be working on a front for him, or a front end will now be calling you to work on the backend. It's better you get the whole work and you are the one to even say, oh, let me get someone to help me do the work. Okay, so we have come to the end of our presentation today. So I would like you people to hit me up with questions. I'm expecting questions from you guys in the CSS, because I know CSS is very, very thick. Okay, so
Thank you for a very, very, very interactive section. Okay, I won't say interactive, a swell session. We actually learned a whole lot. This class was supposed to end by 9:30, but we are doing extensions because, yeah, the class is very, very interesting. Thank you for such a swell time. I'm sure everybody here is enjoying the class, and we really appreciate your effort in putting together such amazing content to enable us start our web development career. Okay, quickly, if you have a question, you can put up your hand and then we'll get your questions. I will get answers to your questions, and we are supposed to round up within the next 9 minutes. Okay, Aziz, you raised your hand. All right, ask your question.
Okay, my question is, I think I was logged out when he was trying to explain the absolute and the absolute and the what's it called, and relative. But I think I'll probably watch videos and try to catch up on it. But the thing now, the question I want to ask now is it safe to keep watching the random videos? You know, when you go to YouTube now, there are several videos on all these things. Like, so I kind of feel like when watching them, it's kind of like maybe I think contradicts each other a little bit. I don't know if anybody understands what I'm saying. Like, I don't even know. So I'm thinking now. I think it's safe to even read up on these things than to watch videos on them. From the way I look at things.
Okay, Edidiong, what are your reactions to that question? And that wasn't just a question, that was both an observation and a comment. So please react and respond to it.
Okay, I read your question. You said watching YouTube videos. Now, what I will say about watching YouTube videos, you know, when you get a knowledge and maybe you tend to forget it and you try to look for a way to remember it, it's very easy to remember it, no matter how maybe you go to online now and you want to check for it. You forgot it's something that you knew already, but you forgot, you don't go to online and check for it. Now, once you see maybe the resource that you are looking for, you try to come up, like remember it from what you like. The whole thing will now come back to you and you start remembering them, irrespective of how the person put it or how the source put it. It's different from when you don't even know somewhere. Okay, let's say you are heading to a particular place, you don't even know the road. Even when you are using your Google map, you will sometimes tend to lose on the road. Yes. So these are two different scenarios. You know this thing already and you forgot, you want to go and check up for it. Now, I'll advise YouTube for if you already have knowledge of this thing, you go for YouTube and you like see and brighten up yourself that okay, this thing I heard about it, I couldn't really understand it. Maybe use YouTube to understand that particular thing. Maybe like you use the absolute display. Maybe you want to remember what the absolute can be actually used for. You now go to YouTube and check on it. You will now get to remember something that you heard about it and you try to like see if it is actually what you think. But in the case that you did not even know, you just want to go there, it's going to confuse you. Yes, it's going to confuse you because even me, it do confuse me sometimes to check up something that I don't actually have idea about. Now, my advice for you is you take up a full class. Yes, you take up a full class to learn all these things so that when you want to do something, maybe you forgot on the way. Even me, even sometimes I want to develop. I do forget something that is very, very like something I'm not even supposed to forget. I will need to like ask questions or just use my phone, check Google and check that thing, and immediately it comes up. I will now like maybe I just read first two lines. I will get to remember it. So if you don't really understand YouTube, yes, YouTube, people do use YouTube and learn, but it's not everybody that are used to it based on the content on YouTube now. If you watch my channel, you go to another person's channel and watch, the way I presented mine and the way the person presented his own is very, very different. And this is where the confusion starts. So if you already have a knowledge about this thing, it is fine. But if you want to really learn about it, you take up a full class, go through the class, then at the end, you get the knowledge from it. At the point, if you want to learn more, it will be easy for you to advance yourself. You understand? Some people on YouTube, the way they explain these things, some people explain it not as if they are explaining it to a beginner. Some they explain it as if you already know it. That's just the problem. That's just the thing. Do you get that?
Okay.
Hello?
Yeah, I'm sure he got what you said. So we are going
Yeah, I
to
got.
move to the next question. Right, Michael, please ask a question.
Hello, Bright. We are waiting for you.
Hello, I don't know if you can hear me.
Yeah, we are hearing you.
Okay, sorry, it's not really a question. I got kicked out because of the network. During the CSS lecture. I don't know if we'll be having a video or something that we can go back to.
Yes.
All right.
The class is being recorded, and after the class, we'll make the link to the recording available for as many who want to go over it again. And also, the course content will be also made available, but not very, very accessible. So after the class, we will let you all know through our WhatsApp platform.
Okay, thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. I really appreciate it, sir.
All right. Does anybody have any other question? I'm not seeing any hands up, so I will assume that's the end of the questions. So it was really nice having all of you here. Thank you for taking your time to be here, because a teacher without a student is somebody who's just wasting his time, and we are happy you got to be here. We are happy you got to be here. I think somebody is trying to ask a question. Let me see if we can just take that one as we wrap up. Hello. I think that would be Techno BF7. You want to ask a question? Okay, I think we lost in there. So yes, thank you all for being here. The class was, I was being here for over 2 hours, and you guys stuck around till the end. So we understand that a lot was taught in such a short amount of time, and a recording of the class, a link to the recording of the class will be sent, like I earlier said, and then please, we will urge all of you, especially those who really got much of the content, and please leave a review. Like, you can do your review in 2 ways. It's either you write your review of the class, what you gained, the pros, the cons, and then put them on the WhatsApp group. We'll collect them. Or if you can, and this is a plea, you can make a video recording, a 30-second or 1 minute video recording talking about the class, explaining what you gained from the class and all of that. So we can compile all of these, and then we will add them to our channels. So once again, I want to thank our facilitator, Mr. Edidion Udodiok. You did a very good job. Thank you for spending time with us. Thank you for teaching us. Thank you for showing us how to structure websites and how to make websites look enticing and interactive. Thank you for that. And once again, thank you to all of us. And most especially, we cannot forget the host of this event. Like I said, the host is our mother body, VEESIOO Tech. VEESIOO Tech deals on websites, we build websites, we do branding, logo designs, and all of that. So we have a lot of opportunities, and yeah, if you are growing, if we see your potential, we can work with you. You can work with us. You have a project you want us to jump in on, yes, we can work with you, and we'll grow together, of course. So please, if you have not, I will plead with you to give us a follow on social media handles. The link will be dropped in the chat, that is in the WhatsApp group, and then you can recommend us to any jobs, any projects, and all of that. And this is not the last time you will see us, okay? We still have more packages for you, and at least from what you got today, I'm sure you will be ready to recommend us anywhere. So Mr. Edidiong, please, your final remarks to us before we leave.
I'm seeing someone raising your hand.
Okay, you want us
Please
to? All right.
take no BF, please just say something.
All right. Okay. Techno BF7, the facilitator has requested we hear from you. All right.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, I wanted to know, when are we having this class again?
Okay, for now, we don't have any schedule for a next class, but like I said, the recording of this particular class will be available. The link will be made available to as many who want to go over it again, because a whole lot. I understand that at some point, maybe you got lost, it was too fast, and watching the recording will enable you rewind, pause, follow step by step, and it becomes easier. And then whenever we have a follow-up class or a next class, of course, we'll let you know through our platforms. Our Instagram handle will be shared. We'll be giving you updates there. Content will be shared too. And then also on the WhatsApp group, we'll be sharing a lot of content. We have a lot for you guys, and just stick around. So your final words, Mr. Edidiong.
I don't have a final word. Yeah, you say final word. We are not dying. Okay. All right. So I believe you guys enjoyed the whole presentation, and you've learned something. Yes, because you would say you came and you left without getting anything. Tell you, you build a site for someone, you build a site and you maintain the site, and you take care of everything on the sites, and all these are things that you charge for them. You don't just build and you at the point they will say, oh, I need an update, I want to upgrade my site, I want to change things, I want to add things. You build them, you collect your percents, and you work for it. That is it. It's very, very interesting. You work at the comfort of your home. You don't need to just go, let me be going to work or stay in traffic to go to work. Just have lights, just have your laptop, just have your internet with you, and you're good to go. Just your laptop is your office, and you have your work, and you do them, and you deliver your jobs, and there you go. No stress. We work smartly. We don't work so hard. We don't work to kill ourselves before we eat. You work smartly. So it's a very, very good thing. You become a web developer and you start building website for people. And you see, one thing about web development, it's something that every day you keep learning. It's every day you keep learning. You don't, just like someone that wants to build a house, you don't wait for you to have a complete money to build a house already. You cannot even tell how much it will cost you to build a complete duplex. But the more the money comes, you throw it in, you throw it in, you throw it in. That is how web development is. The more you get the knowledge, as you get the knowledge, you try and practice on it. You practice on it. That is it. You practice, you learn, you practice, you practice, you practice, you practice, 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 and practice and practice. Before you see yourself, you are already a developer. You can actually get something and do work on it, and you are a developer. That is it. It's nothing much. It's nothing that will take much of your time. If you want to get enrolled in a full class won't take you a year. A full class won't take you 6 months. You have 2 to 3 months to learn. depending on which part are you going to. Are you going for a full stack? Are you going for a web, like a front end, or you want to be a back end developer? You choose any of them and you go for it. So 2-3 months, you devote your time to 3 months, and you have been able to learn these things, and you have become a web developer. Okay, so it's a very good thing that you've joined this this webinar today. I'm so grateful, and I appreciate
Yes,
each and
sir.
every one of
Yes,
you.
sir.
Thank you very much.
Real quick, sir. I'm sorry to interrupt, sir. I'm really sorry. I want to know if, because I'm really interested in this, right? And I'd like to
Oh,
take that class you're talking about. So how do what is the first step? What is the first step, sorry?
okay, you are going to get registered with us, and it's the full stack class now. It's going to be the front end and the back end side. Okay, so you get registered with us. Richard is going to give you a brief on that. Then you get enrolled. You can either, because the way the class is, it can be in a group. If you want it personal, it's fine. We have a group class, we have a personalized class. So if you want to go for personalized class, yes, fine. And I even advise it, a personalized class is very okay, because you and your teacher, and you are able to get what you want. In a general class, yes, there might be distractions. Now we have the full class. That is what I'm trying to let you know. We have the personal class. So you choose which one you want to join, then you get enrolled.
All right.
That is it.
So yeah, like Mr. Adidion rightly said, continuous practice, because every day there is a new technology. Few years ago there was no chat GPT. Today chat GPT is running everything, and we are running scripts and doing a lot through chat GPT. Something that will take you a couple of days to do, you can do it in minutes with chat GPT. You just have to be creative. There are new technologies, so we have to stay on top of all of this. So like I said, thank you for spending time with us. Do not forget to leave a review, give us a like and a follow, and also we'll drop a link for you to be able to get to the recording of this so that you go over it. So how do we say it? Should I say adios, or goodbye, good night, and hope to see you next time?
Please, one more thing. You people that are in the group, from time to time there'll be updates on the group, so you can be checking the group. I'm not advising you to leave the group. You don't feel like we are done. We are not done yet. We have so many things. So check the group. There are messages there. You check the update, check the things that are there. So for the guide that is very, very much interesting, please, I would like you to message Richard, okay? So we can really talk around how we can arrange your class for you, okay?